Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of Way of the Underhive. This series is dedicated to helping brand new players to Necromunda build their starting rosters and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on today's episode, we will discuss playing a Badzone Enforcer Gang in the Aranthian Succession campaign setting. We will discuss the positive and negative aspects of playing in the Aranthian Succession campaign. We'll also discuss the impact the campaign setting has on Badzone Enforcer Gangs. We'll discuss good choices for alliances, brutes, hanger-ons, as well as hired guns, and we'll also provide you with a 2,400 point starting roster that you could use in your very first campaign. Not only that, but we'll also talk about how to best use this gang on the tabletop with Tabletop Tactics, and we'll also talk about how you can develop this gang as the campaign develops. So that being said, because this video is a little bit more of a deeper dive, I will put timestamps in the description box down below, so that way you can pick and choose to the part of the video that interests you the most. So with that all being said, why play the Badzone Enforcer? The reason why is because you want to be renegade cops who take law to the lawless. Are you looking for a challenge? They think maybe playing Paladin Enforcers is a little bit too easy for you? Badzone Enforcers are a very challenging game to play. Do you want to play Enforcers but at the same time able to have alliances as well as receive boons from territories? And do you want to add hive scum to your gang? If the answer is yes to any of these questions, then Badzone Enforcers are for you. So let's go and talk about the positive as well as negative aspects of playing in the Aranthian Succession. So once again, there's some positives of playing in the Aranthian Succession. You get anywhere between 2,000 and 2,400 credits to start your gang. So because of that, you get double the amount of points. If you're staying in the Underhive, you get 2,000. If you're going to the Ash Waste, you get 2,400, and use that additional 400 credits for mounted fighters as well as for vehicles. Now, the thing about this is a lot of people, when they see that starting credit allowance, a lot of players get the negative idea that what you need to do is double the size of your gang. You could do that. There's nothing wrong with having 20 to 25 fighters in your gang, but seeing how most scenarios can only allow you maybe have a maximum of maybe 10 to maybe 15 guys at the most, that's not really going to really help you out too much. Instead of actually making a very large gang, what you should do is instead just focus on the normal size gangs that you usually have and just fully equip them with all the things they need to be successful in their campaign setting. For example, instead of just buying really basic weapons and maybe some scant armor for your fighters, give them better weapons, give them better armor, give them war gear like respirators and photo goggles, stim packs, what else, bio boosters, exotic beasts, anything that you would normally not get your fighters for the very first beginning part of a campaign, you can now fully equip them, and this is what it's going to do, is create a lot of variety of builds for you to use. You can do a lot of exploiting with some really powerful combinations. You can also add a lot of things to this game that you would normally not start off with at the beginning of a campaign. It could be really awesome for your gaming experience with these larger credit allowances. Now, with that all being said, of course, there are some negatives of playing in the Aranthian Succession. One of the biggest ones, of course, is going to be the balance bandwagon, especially if you're playing against a player whose gang has not received any support from the Aranthian Succession campaign setting. As a Badzone Enforcer, you do have some additional things that have been given to you by the Aranthian Succession, things like access to Cyber Mastiffs as well as Sanctioner Pattern Automata. And at the same time, it's kind of hazy on the details so far, but you might be able to take Paladin Rangers as well to operate the vehicles for your gang. And if you're playing as an opponent who has not received any updates from the Aranthian Succession, they might complain about that. So if you do run into one of those players, just be aware that might be a problem that you might run into. A second reason why you might not be into the Aranthian Succession is that it's a very narrative-heavy campaign setting. So if you're not really into narrative campaign play, that could impact your decision to want to do it. So just be aware that there's a lot of narrative-based scenarios in this campaign setting. So now that we're going to talk about the positives and negatives of playing in the Aranthian Succession, let's go on and talk about how the campaign setting directly impacts Badzone Enforcers. So when it comes to Badzone Enforcers, for the longest time you had to choose either between defense or offense for the most part. And the reason why is because of the equipment that Badzone Enforcers start off with. Unlike their Paladin Enforcer counterparts, they don't automatically come with weapons or with armor, so you have to buy those things right off the bat to represent the fact that the Badzone Enforcers are not as well funded as their Paladin counterparts. And so because of that, a lot of Badzone Enforcer players had to make a really difficult decision to do that. But that's not necessarily the case anymore, and the reason why is because you have a larger credit increase to start off your gang. Another thing that's also interesting as well is that you could also double the number of champions in your gang with the Aranthian Succession. So you could have up to 4 champions in a Badzone gang. Now that is of course with the stipulation that you of course balance out the rest of your roster with Gang Fighter X designations to kind of balance that out for gang composition. So do keep that in mind. At the same time, even though the Badzone Enforcers may not have as much firepower as their Pal Knight counterparts, they do have access to vehicles, which could address that lack of firepower as well as mobility for this gang, which could really help you out as well. There's also some really cool things that you can also do, like for example, put mounts for your hive scum, for example, on your individual fighters. Another thing you also got to worry about too is that supply and light issues is kind of a problem for the Badzone Enforcers back in the Underhive. Basically what happens, you have the scarce trait for all the Pal Knight type weapons that your Badzone Enforcers would carry. However though, this could easily be fixed either with alliances or with vehicle choices, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the actual rosters. At the same time, you do have access to the Sanctioner Pattern Automata as well as Cyber Mastiffs, so that's something that's also kind of cool as well. And like I said before, it's kind of gray right now. I'm not really sure if you do get access to the Pal Knight Rangers. For those of you guys who are not sure what Pal Knight Rangers are, these are the vehicle crews for Pal Knight Enforcer Gangs. I do believe you do get access to this as a Badzone Enforcer Gang. I'm not really sure on that one, so because that, when I make my roster, as you guys will see in this video, I left out the Pal Knight Ranger because I wasn't really sure how that one really works too well. And besides, the way I have this list built up, you really don't need these vehicle crew members anyways. And then of course, the most important thing, the reason why I want to take these guys is because you have access to territory boons. A lot of Pal Knight Enforcers do not get access to territory boons when they take over. They could either clean out the crime and get a lot of reputation points, but they really can't get income from their territories in most campaign settings. So the Badzone Enforcers kind of get that, which is kind of nice as well. And at the same time, you also have access to really good alliances as well. And speaking of that topic, let's go ahead and talk about alliances next. So when it comes to your alliances, you primarily have to choose law-abiding type of alliances. So either guilds, or you can go with noble houses as well, which are really nice because you have a nice little balance between the two of them. And unlike your Pal Knight Enforcer counterparts, your Badzone Enforcers can actually become outlaws as well. So if the campaign develops and you get that outlaw status, you could also make criminal organization alliances, unlike their Pal Knight Enforcer counterparts. So you have a large variety of different choices that you can use when it comes to making alliances for your gang. Now, when it comes to making alliances, there's one key thing you should always remember. Always make an alliance that addresses a potential weakness in your gang. So for example, if your gang is really weak at shooting, for example, you might want to make an alliance with a alliance that gives you better shooting options. Or if you're really weak at close combat, for example, make an alliance that will benefit you with close combat. Or if you think that income generation might be a problem, make an alliance that can help you out with generate your income. Now for this gang specifically, the biggest issue they have is ammo rules for their weaponry because of the broken supply line trait. What that basically means that all the normal Pal Knight Enforcer weapons that they get to use in this gang has a scarce trait attached to it, which means the moment they run out of ammo, they're out. So because of that, in order to address this weakness, in my opinion, the best alliance that a Badzone Enforcer gang can make is to make an alliance with the noble house of House Grey. And the reason why House Graham is such an attractive alliance for a Badzone Enforcer gang is because you have the ability to reroll failed ammo rolls, and this is especially important for Badzone Enforcer gangs because of that broken supply line special rule. So if you do roll a failed ammo roll on your scarce trait for your weapon, that doesn't matter, you can automatically reroll it as well, which is kind of nice too. At the same time, you also get access to the military attaché, which is also kind of a nice buff. You got a really good medium to close combat oriented list with a guy who has got overseer on it, which that part is kind of nice as well. Now, the only thing you need to worry about, of course, is the drawback on this one. You could lose one of your fighters to being seconded to the militia, so you could lose one of your fighters that way. However, though, that only happens if you lose a battle, so otherwise, just don't lose any battles, and you won't have any stress. Otherwise, you might lose a member of your gang, so do keep that in mind. So now that we're going to talk about alliances, let's talk about brutes, hangers-on, as well as hired guns. So for obvious reason, the Grog Dock is going to be a very important hanger-on to actually get for your gang as well. In case one of your fighters ends up getting critically injured, that Rogue Dock is worth their weight in gold in order to patch up your fighters as well. Another really important hanger-on is going to be ammo jacks. Ammo jacks are going to be really nice because that can help you with the broken supply line rules as well. They can offer rerolls on ammo checks because of their munitioneer skills and other things that they can do as well. So that could really help address that problem with the broken supply lines. And when you combine this with the abilities you get from House Grain, it can make sure that you never run out of ammunition ever again for your gang. At the same time, you also have access to this hard case Cyber Mastiff, which is a exotic beast for your gang, so you can get access to those, which could be pretty nice and help out your gang as well. At the same time, probably the coolest brute of all would be the Sanctioner Pattern Automata. You do get access to that thing as well. It's a very powerful close combat oriented brute that also has a really good firepower, also photon flash grenades. So that might be something you want to get when you get enough credits for your gang as well. So now that we're done talking about brutes, hanger-ons, as well as hired guns, let's go ahead and talk about your starting roster. Alright, so this is a 2,400 point roster for Badzone Enforcers and the Aranthian Succession. First of all, your Badzone Enforcer Captain is going to cost you 240 credits. This fighter's got mesh armor as well as a grenade launcher with a stub gun, photo goggles to see in the dark, as well as teamwork for larger group activations. Follow that, you got Badzone Enforcer Sergeant number 1, so it costs you 210 credits. This Enforcer is going to be having mesh armor as well as a heavy concussion ram, as well as a stub gun for a backup weapon. They have photo goggles as well as the fast shot ability, so that way they can fire this weapon twice. Then Badzone Enforcer Sergeant number 2 is going to cost you 220 credits. This fighter's got mesh armor as well as a sledge assault ram equipped with choke gas grenades as well as frag grenades. This fighter's also got a stub gun with photo goggles so they can see this in the dark, as well as got your 6 to interrupt enemy charges towards your fighters. After that, you're going to have another Badzone Sergeant. This is Sergeant number 3. This guy's going to cost you 270 credits. This fighter's got mesh armor as well as a heavy stubber with a stub gun for a backup weapon. They also have photo goggles as well as the got your 6 ability to interrupt enemy charges towards your fighters. And then you have Badzone Enforcer Sergeant number 4. He's going to cost you 265 credits. This fighter's got mesh armor, a web gun as their primary weapon, a stub gun for a backup weapon. They have photo goggles so they can see in the dark, as well as hip shooting, so that way they can hip fire and move around and engage your enemy that way. After that, you guys are going to have 5 Badzone Enforcer Patrolmen. You're not going to have any Hive scum in this gang. Badzone Patrolman number 1 and 2 are equipped exactly the same at 160 credits apiece. Both have mesh armor as well as Enforcer bolt guns. They have stub guns for backup weapons as well as photo goggles. And then after that, you got Badzone Enforcer Patrolman number 3 and 4. They're both equipped exactly the same at 135 credits apiece. Both have mesh armor. Both have combat shotguns with salve and shredder rounds, and both have stub guns as well. And then lastly, your Badzone Enforcer Patrolman number 5 is going to cost you 150 credits. This fighter's got mesh armor as well as using a sniper rifle with infrared sight, so that way they can see in the dark and also take away partial cover. They have a stub gun for a backup weapon, and this will also be your gang's specialist. Now for your brutes and hanger-ons, you're going to recruit a rogue doc, which will be costing you 50 credits. This fighter's got last pistol Medicaid kit as well as Medicaid skill, so that's going to really help you out. And for your vehicle on this one, you're going to recruit a Guild of Coin hauler. This fighter's going to cost you 415 credits. This guy is equipped with photo goggles as well as driving a Cargo 8 Ridge hauler with a Munitorium armor container on the top of it, so that way that can solve any of your ammo needs that you need to have for this gang. At the same time, it comes with blade of armor as well as a crash cage to protect the vehicle's body as well as its crew. It's also got an engine shell to protect its engine, as well as tire claws that give you better handling. Now, in case your campaign does allow an alliance, you're going to make an alliance with the Noble House of House Graham. You'll have the Finest Ordnance ability, which means you may be able to reroll any ammo checks the gang is required to take, and you also have the Martial Pride benefit, which only triggers if you lost a battle. But the odds of that survival are actually in your favor, so you get plus D6 experience point if you manage to get that for your fighter. After that, you also have the Militia Draft, which you really don't have to worry because you don't really have juvies in your gang, so you don't really have to worry about this rule too much. But you also get access to the House Grey Military Attaché, which is also kind of nice. Now, in that military attaché, you have the Kriegmeister. This guy's going to have light carapace armor for that 4-up armor save, a bolt pistol as well as a power sword. They got an IF for war skill special rules so that they can get a better chance of getting scenarios for your gang, as well as the overseer ability, which is always powerful. And then you have the Jagerkin, which is basically the bodyguard for the Kriegmeister. The Jagerkin has got mesh armor for that 5-up armor save, a combat shock with salve and shredded round. It's got the bodyguard special rule as well as a marksman skill, which is not all that impressive. And that's going to make up your starting roster for your Badzone Enforcers for this one. So let's talk about the tabletop tactics when it comes to this gang. You're going to have a support fire teams, which are going to consist of your Badzone Enforcer Captain, Badzone Sergeant number 1, as well as Patrolman 1 and Patrolman number 2. Then you're going to have a Badzone Enforcer Sergeant number 3, with also Patrolman number 5, as well as your Guild of Coin hauler. Then you're going to have 3 assault fire teams. Assault fire team number 1 consists of your Badzone Enforcer Sergeant number 4, as well as Patrolman number 3 with the Kriegmeister, as well as the Jagerkin from the military attaché. You will then also have your Badzone Enforcer Sergeant number 2, as well as Patrolman number 4. Now, the third assault team could be your Kriegmeister as well as your Jagerkin if they need to break off to do things on their own, so that one kind of count as like its own little third assault fire team. Now, this entire gang is going to be mounted on the Cargo 8 Ridge hauler, and with your House Grey Military Alliance, you will be able to reroll as many ammo rolls as you need to in order to negate the broken supply line special rule. And if that doesn't work, you have the hauler's Munitorium armor container, which will automatically help your fighters with any reloads that you might need to make. So now we've effectively taken away the broken supply line rule. It's not going to be a real issue with this gang on the tabletop. Now, the Cargrate Ridge Hauler closes distances towards your enemy, and within range, your first support fire team, consisting of your captain, sergeant number 1, as well as patrolman number 1 and 2, dismount, and they provide a base of fire against your enemy. Meanwhile, your second support fire team, consisting of your first sergeant number 3, as well as patrolman number 5, they put on long range fire with their heavy stubber, as well as their sniper rifle, to take targets out at a distance. Now, while this is all occurring, your assault fire teams then dismount, and they can flank either side of your enemy's formation, using the assault team consisting of sergeant number 4, patrol number 3, as well as the Jägermeister, Jägerkin, as well as the Kriegmeister. Hopefully you can break these guys apart, and they can flank on either side and get your enemy in a three-way kind of crossfire type situation, and if you can do that, you can just finish your enemies as well. Also, have your support fire teams and assault fire teams assemble towards your enemy to 3 sides, and then defeat them in crossfires, charge through, and finish off anybody who's left alive. Now, as your campaign develops, of course, purchase additional photo goggles for your entire roster, followed by dum-dum rounds for all your stub guns. That way, you have reliable strength for backup shooting, as well as a good strength for a close combat attack as well. Now, from there, you could also purchase heavy weapons for your Cargrate Ridge Hauler. I would suggest heavy stubbers, as they would be the most powerful for your vehicle with that longer range, as well as good, high reliable strength attacks. You could do storm bolters if you want to, but storm bolters do not have the range that heavy stubber does, and that's why I think heavy stubber is a little bit more valuable for your gang as well. Now, from there, you could purchase either hacked or hard case cyber mastiffs for your captain, as well as your sergeants for extra support. And finally, also purchase respirators to make your fighters more survivable against environmental as well as gas attacks that they might run into in the campaign. And if you really want to as well, you could also equip close combat weapons like assault shields or stun batons, but that's entirely up to you if you want to go with that route. And that's pretty much how this gang will develop as the campaign continues. Alright you guys, so there you guys have it. Upgrading your gangs in the Aranthian Succession is a really cool way in order to create some of the most powerful gangs imaginable and to fully equip them. You can also get them powerful weapons, war gear, as well as vehicles as well. And when it actually comes to actually creating your gangs, focus on that quality versus quantity build. Just stick with a normal sized gang like you would normally do, but just give them all the equipment they need to be successful in whatever situation they may find themselves in the campaign. And because new information is dropping all the time for Games Workshop, I will also be creating new videos to help you along on your Necromunda journey. So that's good to for those of you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this, you guys. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.